I watched this episode 3 times. 3. And it wasn't until the 3rd watch where I realized I know exactly when Sazz's fate happened, and oh boy is it dark. Yellow my little filmer dudes and super sleuths, my name is Ivan Montero and welcome back. I've missed you. Detective sleuthing dude Ivan, name still pending, missed ya. Last year, not only did we figure out who was the murderer for season 3 of OMITB and made wild theories along the way, but I also accidentally broke the show because I accidentally figured out certain characters' ages and when Brazos roughly aired and when Ben Glenroy's show aired, and all of it didn't line up with the ages that the characters claimed that they had in the show. You can check that video out on your own. This time though, we are not going to break the show's continuity, but instead
playing from Lewis.
No, you're not playing from Lewis. Lewis is my laptop. This time we are not going to break the show's continuity, but instead we are going to tackle each episode weekly and try to theorize what the hell is even going on in season 4, because truly, honestly, what a wild first episode! I had like one of those strawberry fruit popsicles, and my mouth is still salivating. Spoilers obviously for Only Murders in the Building in its entirety, so proceed with caution. You and me, together, we are going to figure out who the intended target was. We're gonna go over my personal suspect list, and we're also gonna have a quick breakdown of some of the things that stood out to me in this episode. And I will actually reveal exactly when Sazz was incinerated, as we are actually shown and subtly told when it happened in the episode, and we're gonna do that all in this video. Now, before we go over the suspects, I must say that at this time it looks as if Charles could have been the intended target, or at least that's what I think the show wants you to believe, and everyone says, oh, Charles was the intended target the whole time. But I say nay! I highly disagree. I believe that Sazz had discovered something incriminating, something sensitive to tell Charles. It might cause something devastating for this killer or killers. I have a wild theory later on in the video. My guess it has something to do with Brazos. Seemingly, Sazz was mistakenly murdered in place of Charles, but if that were the case, why go through the whole trouble of trying to poorly, might I add, cover up Sazz's whereabouts and not just try again and murder Charles? I do think this is gonna play a fact in the final season, but we're gonna get that later. Sazz was shot on the opening night of Death Rattle Dazzle in Charles's apartment by a sniper. A good thing to remember is that the killer had texted Charles with Sazz's phone, mainly only because Charles kept texting Sazz, where ya at, girl? So the killer obviously felt like he had to quell the curious cat to avoid further investigation, but Charles don't work like that, baby. I don't think the killer actually really knows Charles personally, but I think the killer's target was Sazz the entire time. And that's because the killer knew Sazz's schedule. Didn't anybody find it odd that the killer conveniently knew about Scott Bakula's pilot and that Sazz was supposed to be his double in that pilot? Think about it. How does the killer know that? Charles didn't know about it, and Charles and Sazz are longtime best friends. If the killer knew so specifically about her work schedule, then they knew for sure that she would be at the Arconia dressed as Charles to celebrate Death Rattle Dazzle. So what does this mean? It means that the killer works in the industry. They have to if they know her work schedule. It also means that they must also know her and must have worked with her to some degree to have gathered this information as well, which I would imagine would be very easy to acquire if you are physically on studio lots all of the time and work in the industry. Now, here's the thing about that final scene. Semantics are everything, my little filmer dudes. So upon Charles, Mabel, and Oliver discovering Sazz's ashes and Bulgarian bones, Charles receives a text from the killer with Sazz's phone after Charles had texted him, "Who are you? You are not Sazz." The killer replies with this one text: "Not your effing friend." People are taking this to believe that the killer is talking directly to Charles or referring to Charles in this scenario. However, I think the killer was saying, "I am not your effing friend, Sazz." You see the difference? I'm not your effing friend, and I'm not your effing friend, comma, Sazz. So that's what I'm saying. Grammar, no one knows grammar nowadays. It's sad, but I think that this is serving as a red herring for all of us to assume that the killer is talking to and about Charles, and the intended target was Charles. But I do not think that the intended target was Charles. And the fact that the killer is responding at all with this type of response, not your effing friend, it makes it personal. To me, it says, I hate your friend. I am not that individual. The killer's almost proud to have been found out. Bold. I think that this is personal, but personal with Sazz. The killer absolutely hates Sazz for some reasons, and the writers want to pull the wool over our eyes and make us think that it is Charles, but nay, the wool is not over mine eyes. So in conclusion, Sazz was the intended target because she discovered something incriminating involving Charles in some capacity, enough to involve his trust in all of this, but before she could involve him, she was too late. Inside of her apartment, the trio found a lot of mysterious and vague notes that were written out on mail and pieces of paper. One of them said, "Looking at Charles," with another paper with a set of numbers on them. It's like, it's honestly a murder mystery board's dream. I will look into this more as more episodes are revealed, because I tried to make sense of it, couldn't really. There's just not enough information yet to deduce what any of this could mean. There's something in my eye. I just know that she discovered something and likely hid this incriminating evidence in her apartment, which would explain why we heard a thud as the trio was walking in and they just ignored it. But here's some key questions and some key details to take away from episode 1 about Sazz. She never spoke to Charles and said that sensitive information that she had to tell him. So if that's the case, how and why did they split up, and why did she go up to get the wine and Charles did not? She was indeed the intended target. After being shot, her body was moved so carefully as to not leave trails of blood, which is insanely interesting. If it's professional, I guess it's believable, but if it's a group of people, The leftover blood was cleaned up, but not well. Killer took her phone away, likely to cover up any tracks. She had Bulgarian bones, which, what a payoff! I wrote that in my notes and it immediately paid off. And it just made me realize she had the saddest and the loneliest death in probably all time, and it's underrated, and I don't see how more people are talking about it. We need justice for Sazz, because seriously, what did she know to be murdered and then incinerated just to keep this secret hidden? What is this secret? So, who killed Sazz? My filmer dudes, we have a suspect list, and who is on it isn't who you think would be on it, at least in the placement. From least to most suspected, here's who I have my eyes on. Scott Bakula. However, after while recording this, now thinking about it, he actually might be at front, but I'm gonna keep him here at the very bottom for now. Howard. Bev Melon, the studio producer. Kumail Nanjiani, whose character we've not seen yet, and we don't know who he's playing as of yet. Charles' sister, played by Melissa McCarthy, who we've also not seen yet. Loretta, and the script writer, Marshall. So Scott Bakula. I made a joke about Scott Bakula being the murderer in my trailer reaction and hype video. And then he showed up in this video in what could be the same context if you stretch it. But for real, Scott Bakula would have actually known Sazz's schedule directly. Am I onto something with Scott Bakula? That's why when I was saying, I was like, hold on, maybe Scott is on the team of the murderers. People are also looking at Scott Bakula just because it's just a thing to do, to look at, but I think he might. I mean, I have it in my script that I'm supposed to tell you that I think it might be a red herring to make us think it was personal to Charles and not Sazz, but at this point, I don't know anymore. Semantics! Semantics! Let's all keep our eyes on Scott Bakula. How about that? Let's just leave it at that. Howard. Listen, Howard has consistently been on my suspect list in every single season. Season 1, it was him Well, I knew it was Jan, but Howard was also on that list. Season 2, also on the list. Season 3, if you can remember, Howard was also on that list. We gotta remember that the writers are insanely good at making us think that it could actually be anyone. I mean, last season they made us think it was a freaking Mabel. At least, I made a good case as to why I think it could have been Mabel, but it's quickly dispelled because it makes no sense. What spectacular writing! But here's the thing. I think I have Howard here for like a little mini theory because I think the writers could actually be setting up Howard as the final murderer of the series. I think perhaps Howard is gonna either kill one of them or kill someone, and they're gonna figure out that it's Howard. Howard's gonna be like, I just wanted to be relevant. I just wanted to be one of you guys the whole time, and I look at me, I'm helping you solve the murder. And then, boom, he shoots one of them, and one of them will die by the end of the series. We're getting way ahead of myself, but I just want to put it out there in case it happens. But wouldn't it be insane if Howard was a murderer and killed one of the trio, and then maybe replaced one of them throughout the show? Oh my, the final season? I don't know how they could pull it off, but babes, that would be real. So Bev Melon, like I said in my trailer reaction and hype video, having Bev Melon played by the amazing Molly Shannon, she's doing a phenomenal job already. It wouldn't necessarily be just a copy from season 3, it would legitimately be plagiarizing itself and just changing a few words so that it sounds different. However, Beverly is on my list of suspects only because it would kind of make sense, you know, bombard the trio to get them to LA, to have time to cover up Sazz's death, right? See, the thing is, it seems so obvious. That's why I'm thinking it was more than just one person. But I am gonna lean heavily on one person, as you will see. But I do think maybe it was an effort, a group effort. It just seems like it had to be because the body was taken and there was no trail of blood. Not even drips, which also makes me think it was a professional. But how could they have missed the blood on the stove? But again, I don't think this is her motive. The cast was already a thing. Everything was already set up prior to this. If you're gonna make a movie, there's so much, especially for casting, negotiations are involved. So I don't think, a lot of people are saying, oh, it's so convenient that all this happened. I just think it was one of those, well, coincidence. Plus, having Beverly be the killer would be the 4th time it's a girl killer, which, again, would be an amazing double down. But I guess after having Donna and Cliff be the killers, it is kind of a little mental reset, but it would be wild, wouldn't it? But no. She's more likely a red herring. Kumail Nanjiani, who, again, we don't know what he's playing in this show, but here's the thing. Doesn't it feel a little on brand for OMITB to make Kumail Nanjiani the murderer? I know he's not been in the show yet. We've only seen 1 episode, so I'm really basing this off of his like basically 1 to 2 second appearance in the trailer, and his demeanor is a little suspicious. I tried to find out online who he's playing, not IMDb, not to Wikipedia knows, but I did discover a nice little tiddly bit that I want to share with you guys. Apparently, he is set to appear in Peacock's Poker Face, another detective murder mystery show, and this one is written by Ryan Johnson and stars Natasha Lyonne. And Poker Face, it's a How Ketchum, and if you've seen my Elsbeth season 1 review, you will know what How Ketchum is. Instead of a whodunit where we discover, well, who did it, we see how the detective is going to catch the murder. Poker Face was Murderer of the Week, and they had famous actors cameo as those murderers. So it's obvious Kumail Nanjiani is going to be one murderer on one of these episodes, and that's already 2 murderers that he's played, because he also played Steve Banerjee in Welcome to Chippendales on Hulu. And if you've not seen Welcome to Chippendales and you love like time period procedural dramas, this is so good. Hilariously, he's not even in episode 1, but I suspect him more than Bev Melon, just because it's not Bev. I would lose so much respect for this show if it were Bev, by the way. Let it not be Bev. I'm just saying, if it ends up being Kumail Nanjiani, y'all owe me a meal. Maybe even a McFlurry. Charles's sister. So the idea behind this is that Charles is still not the intended target. No, my little filmer dudes. Melissa McCarthy being in this role is a huge surprise for me because I had no idea she was gonna be in this, and it's somehow perfect, and it's not for no reason. First off, again, perfect casting. Second, what if Sazz found something about Charles's sister that would ruin her and his relationship, which would then lead to bigger consequences, and Melissa McCarthy's character, Charles's sister, does not want this to happen at all. So she takes it upon herself, hire someone to murder, because I don't think she's a skilled sniper, but she could have made the hit. So who's the sniper? We don't know yet. But again, something about her demeanor in the trailer spoke fishy to me. But again, this is a murder mystery show, so everybody's kind of suspicious. Loretta. Here's the thing. I think the writers are trolling specifically me because I was the first one, at least that I saw, to publicly call out Loretta's song as the biggest red herring ever. Because of course it was! Of course the reveals of the murderer would be in the song. Anytime there's a song or a game being played or a story being told, pay attention. But because of that, I guess that Loretta had a child-mother bond of some kind, and granted it was for Dickie, which I also called that there was something there, but I didn't really call it was that. But then I called it was Donna and Cliff because again, you look at them and you say it's them. This time, not quite sure. Haven't really looked at somebody this season and said, you. Looked at a trailer and said you. In season 4, however, there's no song, there's no game, but there's a recap. And recaps always give you what you're supposed to focus on because they'll either show up in that episode or they will play a bigger part in the season. So my question is, why focus so heavily on Loretta and Oliver's relationship? Could Loretta have had Sazz killed in order to get Oliver out to LA? I don't think so. But could Loretta and Sazz have interacted in the past and have had a very bad incriminating encounter? Perhaps. I mean, look at just how Loretta walks in, nervous and suspicious as ever. I mean, she's always hiding something, granted, but damn, does mother look good. Work it, queen. Seriously though, Oliver, Loretta is just a bunch of red flags, man. I love that you both are adorable as frick. But maybe y'all should just take a little break. Here's the thing, we know that Oliver is a little jealous and is feeling a little bit left behind by Loretta, but could Loretta also be jealous of Oliver getting a movie made about you, and that is a big deal to her? Perhaps not. I really don't think she killed Sazz because it just wouldn't really make sense, but wouldn't it be crazy if the red herring of season 3 ended up being the murderer of season 4? But I genuinely think that the creators at Hulu were like, put her in! Confuse the lad! But honestly, there's something there, isn't it? Am I crazy? Finally, my number 1 suspect. And honestly, I should have given you time to try to guess who it is in the comments. Maybe I'll give you like 2 seconds. 1 and 2. All right. Listen, here is my theory. Marshall P. Pope, the screenwriter, played by Pachinko's Jin Ha, is the murderer. That's an entire theory. 1, why would you hire someone from Pachinko and not have them be the murderer? 2, he's a young screenwriter trying to make it into the Hollywood world. Here's the thing, it's really hard to break into the Hollywood scene. And this, I believe, was his first script or his debut script is what they said. So I think that Marshall didn't actually write the script of this movie. I don't think he wrote the script. I think Marshall might have tried, but couldn't really quite get the characters right. But you know who could? Who knows these characters really, really well and has spent a lot of time with them and has said that she's working on her own projects in the past? Sazz. I think Sazz might have actually been the original script writer. Perhaps she and Marshall decided to work on this together. Marshall maybe wanted all of the credit and he definitely could and would have access to her work schedule, especially if they had known each other previously. But if not, they had to, otherwise why target her? Because if he had known her previously, he would have access to that schedule because he would know where she would be, and he would have totally known that she would have been at the Arconia that night, and he totally could have hired a hitman to shoot Sazz that night, fully knowing that she was going to be in character, because she's never not in character. She's always in some type of character. It's either Scott or Charles. Wait. No, it's not. The intended target could not have been Scott Bakula. I'm a writer. I'm a wannabe screenwriter, and this kind of makes sense to me. Honestly, you would do what it takes. Not murder, please don't murder. It just seems logical for this murder mystery to go down this route if they're going down this Hollywood route. Mark my words! Keep an eye on Marshall, the scriptwriter, because listen, did you see the way he just wanted to be there and with that conversation with specifically Mabel and Bev Melon? I love saying Bev Melon. Bev Melon just wanted to be a fly on the wall, or did he? I think he wanted to ensure that the deal was going to go through, because this is his pride and joy, his baby, and who's going to deny him of his child? Nobody. That's who. It seems fitting for the murderer to be a dude exclusively this time around, honestly, and it just makes sense to have all of the eyes be set directly onto Bev and to Loretta as the red herrings, and have this guy in the background like a Toph, the cameraman from season 3, but this time he be guilty. Filmer dudes, I do believe we've met the culprit in this show in episode 1 already, and I do think we are staring right at him. Marshall P. Pope, I am on to you. Alright, so now you want to know the answer to the question, when was Sazz thrown into the incinerator? I only realized this on my third watch through. There's a key detail that pinpoints the time of her incineration, which is so awful to say. This season is mad dark and has no business being this good this early. I really do hope the tone and the weight stays the same throughout the show. But to make this season even darker right off the bat, the episode opens with the disposal of Sazz right under the trios and our noses. You see, this episode opens with actual home videos of our main protagonist. Super nice touch, by the way. But as Charles is finishing, the power goes out very briefly and comes back on about a second or two later. Charles remarks, "Power surge hasn't happened in a while," to which Oliver replies, "Not since they banned the old incinerator." They must have banned the incinerator a while ago, because Charles and Oliver both notice enough to make mention that it hasn't happened in a long time. So the incinerator hasn't been used since it's been banned, and who knows how long that's been. We know that the killer was successful in incinerating Sazz's body, and I really hate saying any of these sentences. Turns out not only was the murderer in the building the whole time, but we witnessed Sazz's disposal in technical real time. That's both gutsy and admirable as a creator, but it also doesn't sit well in my stomach. Evil is no good. So here are some final thoughts that I want to leave y'all with that I didn't really know how to fit into this video, and I'm sorry this video is already hella long. This episode, as they're going up to the apartment looking for Sazz or looking to see what may have happened, there's a single steady piano note that grows increasingly louder, but not quite overwhelming. But that steady piano note is the same piano note heard at the end of the episode when they start looking for Sazz again. That piano note gets louder and louder and the music intensifies. And I just thought it was a really nice touch that at the very beginning of the episode, they were looking for Sazz, but they didn't really realize they were looking for Sazz, and then the piano note was not as strong. And at the very end of the episode, while they were looking for pianos, while they were looking for Sazz, that piano note got got louder and got like just more intensified. It was a phenomenal touch. This episode has a heavy tone, and I think it's not for naught. I think this season will end with one of the trio dying or having been shot or hinted heavily at one of their deaths. Perhaps be one of those situations in which you're like, oh, 2 bodies confirmed alive, the 1 dead scenario. We're never gonna know, and it's gonna be like who got murdered, and it's gonna be all great marketing or whatever. Or it's gonna be the Howard thing where at the very end of the season they're gonna discover Howard, why did he do it, and then bam, one of them will die. And lastly, Lester's note, the one telling him that he needs to replace the glass on Charles's window, that's gonna play a big hand, as well as there could be handwriting. However, it could also be typed. It could be typed out, which, if that's the case, another point towards Marshall the screenwriter, maybe? I don't know, but all I know, that is it. That is it for my breakdown and theory and review-ish of Only Murders in the Building Season 4, Episode 1. I am so excited. We're gonna do this weekly. We're gonna try to figure out who the murderer is. I might skip a week or two depending on things, who knows? I mean, I'm gonna try not to, but we're gonna do this together, my little filmer dudes. Let me know in the comments below who you think the murderer is. This is a spoiler terrain, so spoilers abound. My social media links are in the description below, and I will see you next time you've just been modified.